Get on board the Bernier bus train. Come get on board the Bernier bus train. Once you hear that clickety-clack, there ain't no time for turning back. Oh, get on board the Bernier bus train.
Good morning, USA, and welcome to another episode of the Bernier Bus Show. We're going to jump right in with the hullabaloo from last night's debates, and we're also going to hear from a professor, a Pennsylvania professor, who understands what race and class discussions really mean in this election cycle. First, let's jump right in with Google searches. Let's say we did a search on Google. I don't use Google, but I'm doing it right now just for the sake of this show. I searched debates, November 2019. I also searched debates, November 2019 on DuckDuckGo. And as you might imagine, there was a difference, a significant difference. So Google, the first thing that pops up under news, you click news after you do the search. The first thing that pops up is NBC News, and then CNN, and then Fox, and then WBUR Boston, and the New York Times, Vox, ABC News, NBC News, Washington Post, CNBC. And that's the first page. All right, then we go to DuckDuckGo, under news again. First hit is Democratic debates, round 5, the moments that mattered most. That's the Boston, the WBUR. That came up on top. It wasn't WAPO or New York Times or the other usual suspects in the Clinton machinery. And this is an interesting article. Impeachment inquiry. Dem debates zinged by Trevor Noah, Stephen Colbert, Seth Meyers. I've already shown you in articles and other Bernier Bust shows that these guys have the same talent agencies, and so they're on board. They're former Clinton, well, they're current Clinton supporters, if you can believe that such smart people haven't been hoodwinked. What we've got here, if you've been following me, is a path, a money trail that we can follow. And Trevor Noah, anything about Trevor Noah now, he seemed so, I don't know about innocent, but he seemed like he was a straight shooter. And then I saw what he did with Bernie Sanders, Orfaleo, the Matt Orfaleo video, where he took part of old video by Bernie Sanders and took it out of context and then skewered Bernie with it. And so to me, Trevor Noah is the personification of evil. Because he wasn't playing fair there. He's not a straight shooter, and he's doing what his masters tell him. Anyway, let's keep going. So we got the Boston article, and we've got this interesting Hollywood article. Then we got the Democratic debates, arrow pointing up for a couple of long shots. That's the New York Post. So I wanted to get to this. When you look at the winners and losers, besides the fact that it was boring, what the people they identify as the winners is predictable because they have and as we said on the show yesterday, their objective isn't to defeat Donald Trump. Their objective is to defeat Bernie Sanders. So they're using whatever they can. They're trying to ignore him. They're trying to, and then marginalize him, and then not report the things that are most important to the American people. President Obama has been on, and Hillary Clinton has been in the news telling us that we can't have the pony. We can't have the nice things we want. American people don't even want all those nice things. And they're just trying to appease their donor class, their donors. All right, so we've got the New York Post, we've got BBC News, all on the first page. Who won the 5th Democratic debate? Newsweek. Newsweek didn't pop up at all in the other one. Newsweek is the only news outlet that covered Victor Tiffany, the founder of Bernie or Bust. So it's interesting that DuckDuckGo allows Newsweek on its first page. Another New York Post, another Newsweek, another New York Post, another New York Post. And that one would be interesting. Kamala calls out Tulsi. Essence, yeah, that's on the first page, Essence. New York Post, Time Magazine. Deadline, oh, I've got to read that one. I haven't read that one yet. The Daily Show with Trevor Noah turns Dem debates into a laugh riot. I'm sure they have a good sense of humor. I'm sure there are funny moments on there, but I'm sure it's not going to be pro-Bernie. Climate. The Nation talks about climate. Bloomberg. Buttigieg mostly gets pass as rivals skirmish. Democratic debate revives clashes over Medicare for all. Wow. That's Fox. Wired News. MSN News. Bloomberg. Yahoo News. That's funny that Yahoo News shows up on DuckDuckGo even though there's no money exchanging hands. The Atlantic. Vox, finally, way down on the bottom. Forbes, Heavy.com, NBC, Business Insider. And that's the first page. You notice DuckDuckGo doesn't have such a tightly edited list. It just seems like whatever comes up, comes up. If you like that, you should stop using Google as your browser. Just jump into that. Seth Meyers, Trevor Noah, Stephen Colbert. I just kind of, not randomly, but I just grabbed one of these clips, one of these video clips. And the question was substance, I think.
Mikey asks, who had the best policy discussion of the night? The night is not over yet.
Ooh, Mikey, I like you.
But I will say there was a kind of robust discussion about paid family leave, fair housing policy, always Medicare.
And also wealth. Like, the Cory Booker, entrepreneurship is...
So here are some substantive issues that got covered in the debate. This is from the Colbert Show, and are these commentators. And what you'll notice, you'll notice an absence of a certain name of the most substantive candidate up there. And whose name is missing here?
Is good. Elizabeth Warren, I'm not so sure. And, the wealth tax, will solve all of planet's ills. That's an interesting, there's a lot of, meat there.
Did you see that? She was about to criticize Elizabeth Warren. Oh, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
Or substance for this Democratic Party.
And some substance that we don't usually hear about. So, right. Thumbs up.
Yeah. Well, he headed her off at the pass. They've anointed it. If you look at, I won't even tell you. You go look and see on Google. You look and see who they think the debate winners are, winners and losers. I'll just give you here's a spoiler alert. What they'll say is who the winners are and who the losers are, and they don't list Bernie's name at all as either. He's not even on their list. That's kind of the main way they're fighting him at this point, although they're starting to panic a little bit. Let me say something about substance. If you want to know which candidate had the most substance, this is on Bernie Sanders for President. This is a Facebook group. And this is what Bernie Sanders said. Bernie Sanders for President, not me, us, if you want to go on there. And the beginning, there it is. Sanders receives applause and praise for saying U.S. should treat Palestinians with respect and dignity they deserve. Senator Bernie Sanders just gave the best Israel-Palestine answer ever, delivered by a serious contender in an American presidential debate. I wonder if you'll see that in the WAPO or the New York Times. The Vermont senator's remarks came unprompted during the foreign policy portion of the debate. So here we have something very substantive, the most substantive thing that happened in the debates probably, and it's Bernie Sanders, so of course they're not going to talk about it. This is what he said. It is no longer good enough for us simply to be pro-Israel. I am pro-Israel, Sanders said, but we must treat the Palestinian people with the respect and dignity they deserve. What is going on in Gaza right now, where youth unemployment is 60-70%, is unsustainable, Sanders added. The senator's remarks sparked immediate praise from progressive, political activists, and journalists. I just want to make it clear that almost no one in American politics brings up Palestinian human rights without being forced to, tweeted The Hill's Crystal Ball. Massive kudos to Bernie Sanders. Massive kudos to Crystal Ball. She's definitely got her finger on the pulse of what's going on. Glenn Greenwald, there's another hero of the left, said on Twitter that Sanders' answer showed why the senator is unique among the Democratic candidates. Is there even a small chance that any candidate other than Sanders would speak so powerfully about the oppression of the Palestinians and how it means we need to rethink support for Israel? Asked Greenwald. I can't think of one. John Cassidy of The New Yorker noted that Sanders has been a longtime supporter of Palestinian rights. This goes on and on. It's important to show that the real substance is Bernie Sanders. And that's not being covered. Now, this guy is a professor. His name is Adolph Reed Jr., and he just in September, end of September, came out with this article about the myth of class reductionism and shows a really deep understanding of how race has been used as a political football to actually keep improvements happening for people of color. The obvious racial disparities are cause for concern, but the way forward is precisely through the kinds of social and economic policies that address Black people as workers, students, parents, taxpayers, citizens, people in need of decent jobs, housing, and health care, are concerned with foreign policy, not to homogenize them under a monolithic racial classification. That's what the Democrats have been doing. Thanks to this misguided reflex, we now routinely act as though initiatives directed to address working class concerns can't suffice for African Americans, since they're class reductionists and therefore racially exclusionary. Ironically, as Toure Reed also points out, that's a historian, it's also his son, this perspective is race reductionist. It presumes that key policies and initiatives must always and everywhere be tailored to singularly African American branded issues in order to appear to address African Americans' needs. His point is that Bernie Sanders' social and economic agenda does more to address the needs of African Americans than any other candidate. And it's not finger waving and it's not lip service, it's the truth. And this is what he had to say on the Hill about the chances of Bernie Sanders to get in. They asked him, what do you think? Will the powers allow these kinds of programs that would actually help African Americans disproportionately, meaning in a more positive way than they would help anyone else? This is what he said.
Do you think that the Democratic Party establishment and sort of the ruling class and donor class establishment would ultimately let Bernie win?
No. I mean, I think I think there's a good chance that they'd kill him if he won, or they'd kill him if he came close to winning. And I know that's probably freaking a lot of people out there that said that.
It's like, let's be careful.
Well, but I mean, look.
Let's be careful. No. Let's tell the truth. Let's look at the people we're dealing with.
What's especially telling about the state of neoliberalism there I said the N-word, in distress now, it can't resolve its contradictions. It was never really committed, or it's a social order that's never really built on popular governance anyway, but just the opposite. And, Brazil, Bolivia, the attacks in Argentina, Hungary, India, Turkey, keep going, right? I may have forgotten somebody. Boris Johnson, for God's sake, right? And from that perspective, and especially also because, as I said before, the Democratic elites and the corporate media in the past couple of months even just seem to have kicked the anti-Sanders campaign into higher gear. Yeah. It's the cleverest way to do it, just by pretending he doesn't exist.
Right.
And look, my dad used to say that ideology is a mechanism that harmonizes the principles that you want to believe you hold and what advances your material interests. So the centrist Democratic elites now are convinced that the issue is who's electable, right? I mean, and they contend that Bernie couldn't win when when there's no one else in this race who's actually appealing to popular, concerns among working people. No one, and I mean, no one else gets the response that he gets. And so, I guess the hidden clause, and they probably hide it from themselves, is that he couldn't win, couldn't win a Wall Street presidency, right? But the beauty of it is that since 1865, and especially 1965, the rest of us get to vote too.
Very well said.
All right, thank you, sir.
That's it. The rest of us get to vote too, except for the voter purge, the purging of the voter rolls and all the gerrymandering that the Democratic Party does, all the sneaky shenanigans. The most powerful one against Bernie, against the most powerful rigging that's happening is just the embargo, the Bernie blackout that's happening with the news outlets that people 65 and older who vote in primary elections read the most. We're not going to get Bernie nominated unless we can get past that embargo and find any reasonable older voters who are comfortable, who are the voting class, who are comfortable suburbanites mostly, and who are mostly white, who want to vote for anyone other than Bernie right now. We have to get their attention somehow, and we're not going to get it by that. We're not going to get on the news. We're not going to get interviews. Even the leftist pundits, even Jimmy Dore, even Lee Camp. Lee Camp actually in the last election cycle covered Bernie or bust, but even Tim Black, who was openly Bernie or bust last time, some of our favorite leftists have not been willing to cover Bernie or bust this time. And let me tell you what's going on here. We've got let me jump to this there it is. Citizens Against Plutocracy. Bernie or bust organizers announce Sanders' potent electoral leverage. This is what we need to get in front of the comfortable voters, that you can do your post-debate analysis, you can talk about who won or who lost, but what this professor has said is that there isn't anyone else who's addressing the needs of people of color and women and children and people who need health insurance and people who need $15 an hour minimum wage and so on. Nobody else has any real intention to address those issues. Nobody has addressed the needs of Palestinian children. We haven't been talking about these things. What we've also found, though, is with massive data from Thomas Piketty, a French economist, over 70 years, massive amounts of data show that poor people and poorly educated people will not vote for someone like Elizabeth Warren or Joe Biden. And if you don't want Joe Biden, if the rich people decide that Biden is not going to measure up, you're not going to get Elizabeth or Pete because they have zero support from African American voters. And so what we've got here is math, real math, that just shows we have to warn everyone, all the comfortable Democrats who can't decide between Beto and Buttigieg and Kamala and Elizabeth. You can't have them. There's no way in hell that poor and poorly educated voters will come out in the numbers you need, not to mention black voters, will come out and vote for, other than for Biden, will vote for a neoliberal Democrat in the general election. So this is just facts. This is just math. We have to get this word out. And one way to do it is to pledge, take the Bernie or bust pledge. But the most important way is just to spread the word past the embargo. Nominate Sanders or lose in November. And that's just a fact. You're going to nominate Sanders or you're going to have Trump. And we know that the neoliberal leaders, the neoliberal kingpins, would much rather have Trump than Bernie. And so if we decide that we need Bernie, then we have to get that to happen in February, from February through July of this next year. It's got to happen. We're in November now, past the middle of November, and it's not going to happen. Oh, and happy birthday to my dad. Happy 77th birthday. That's all I got for you today. I hope that you keep on burning. I hope you have some discussions at Thanksgiving about why, especially with comfortable people, about why nobody else can win in the general election other than Bernie Sanders. We're done with Elizabeth. We're done with Pete. We're done with all the other pretenders, the faux aggressives and the open, blatant neoliberals like Mayor Pete. We gotta get over this shit now. So I hope you have a good day. Keep on burning. See you next time.
Get on board the Bernie bus train. Come get on board the Bernie bus train. Once you hear that clickety-clack, there ain't no time for turning back. Go get on board